Comment on the video, where are people watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. On a late spring afternoon at Elmwood Park, Serena Vale sat alone on a weathered wooden bench beneath the dappled shade of an old oak. The sun filtered through fresh leaves, casting dancing patterns on the paved path. A gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming azaleas and the distant laughter of children at play. Serena, dressed casually in a navy windbreaker and jeans, appeared every bit the picture of tranquility. Yet those who glanced her way would not suspect that beneath her composed exterior lay the instincts of a former Navy SEAL, an elite operative who had once navigated hostile shores and life-or-death missions. Unseen by Serena, 4 men strolled in her direction. They wore matching leather jackets and scuffed boots, their eyes narrowed with malice. Among them, a hulking figure with a buzz cut leaned forward, sneering. These men, members of a loose-knit circle of bigoted drifters, were on the hunt for easy targets, and they had zeroed in on Serena. Their leader, a man nicknamed Crusher, relished the power he felt when picking on someone he deemed weaker. As the quartet closed in, Serena sensed the shift in atmosphere. The crisp air, once calm, now felt charged with hostility. She paused mid-breath, tuning into the subtle signs her training had ingrained in her, the slight rustle of footsteps off the path, the rhythmic tap of boots on concrete, the faint murmur of cruel anticipation. Her gaze remained fixed on the horizon, her posture relaxed yet alert. To an untrained observer, she was simply enjoying a quiet moment in the park. But in truth, she was preparing for the inevitable. Crusher and his companions stopped a few feet away. Their leader's lips curled into a mocking grin. One of the men, tall, gaunt, with a thin mustache, let out a low chuckle. The group exuded a sense of entitlement, as though they owned every inch of the park. They exchanged looks, calculating their next move. Serena inhaled slowly, exhaling just as deliberately. She closed her eyes for a fraction of a second, recalling her SEAL days, the weight of her gear, the roar of the ocean, the adrenaline that sharpened her senses. That memory gave her clarity. She opened her eyes and met Crusher's gaze directly, unflinching. "What are you looking at?" Crusher barked, voice edged with contempt. His companion snickered, eager to provoke. Serena did not rise. She tilted her chin up slightly, her expression neutral. "Just enjoying the view," she replied, voice calm and measured. The gaunt man spat on the ground. "We don't belong here," he snarled, though he made no move to leave. Crusher stepped closer, towering over Serena. In that instant, the world narrowed to a single point of tension. Serena's mind raced through potential scenarios, calculating distance, angles, and timing. Every muscle in her body hummed with readiness. But she remained seated, a serene figure on a battered bench. The drifters had made their choice, underestimate her. And that, Serena Vale knew, would be their first and greatest mistake. Serena Vale's quiet composure at Elmwood Park was more than mere stoicism, it was the product of years spent in rigorous training and perilous deployments. Each breath she took was controlled, each heartbeat steady. Around her, life unfolded in slow motion, a cyclist coasting by, a squirrel darting up a tree trunk, a couple strolling hand in hand. Yet Serena perceived more, tiny fluctuations in the wind, the barely audible hum of distant traffic, the faint creak of the bench beneath her. The sun had climbed higher, warming the air to a comfortable 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Serena felt the heat but did not flinch. Her senses, honed through countless drills and missions, were on high alert. She monitored the movements of Crusher and his companions, noting their body language, how they leaned forward, how their eyes darted between her and each other, how their fists twitched with barely concealed aggression. Memories surfaced, the early morning workouts in the freezing Pacific, the stifling humidity of jungle training camps, the adrenaline-laced hush before a covert insertion. Those experiences had sharpened Serena's reflexes to a razor's edge. Her mind catalogued threats like an experienced tactician, distance to cover, potential improvised weapons, escape routes, and the number of adversaries. A passing breeze carried the distant chime of an ice cream truck, momentarily juxtaposing childhood innocence against the brewing hostility at her feet. Serena allowed herself a microsecond of appreciation for such simple pleasures before refocusing. The drifters had not moved. They watched, calculating their chance to strike. Serena flexed her fingers, feeling the subtle strain in her forearms. She was at home in tension, her body responded as predictably as a well-maintained weapon. Yet she gave no outward sign of readiness. To the untrained eye, she remained the epitome of calm. "Hey, sweetheart," Crusher called, voice mocking. "Why don't you move along before you get hurt?" Serena's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. She shifted her weight, just enough to show she heard him, but did not stand. "I'm right where I belong," she said softly, each word deliberate. The gaunt man spat again, closer this time. "We don't want trouble. But we'll get it if we have to." He exchanged a look with Crusher, a silent agreement that they could break her resolve. Serena inhaled. Her chest rose smoothly, her heartbeat steady at 62 beats per minute. She gauged the distance. Roughly 10 feet between herself and Crusher, 13 feet to the gaunt man, 15 to the other two. She catalogued obstacles: a low stone wall to her left, a trash receptacle 30 feet behind the drifters, a group of picnickers 50 feet to her right. Time seemed to stretch. Serena's training taught her that control was power. And she held the reins firmly. Crusher's crew consisted of 4 drifters: Crusher himself, a bulky man with arms like tree trunks; Gavin, the gaunt instigator with a twitchy jaw; Monty, a stocky fellow who favored silent intimidation; and Roland, the youngest, who hovered nervously at the back. They circled Serena like predators assessing prey. Crusher cracked his knuckles. "All right, princess," he said, voice low and menacing. "Time to scram." Gavin took a step forward, sneering. "What's a pretty girl like you doing out here alone?" He spat a racial slur that cut through the park's serenity. Roland flinched at the word but didn't intervene. Serena's eyes narrowed. "You can say that again," she murmured, her tone deceptively light. Monty let out a low chuckle. "You got spunk. Too bad it won't help you now." They closed in, narrowing the circle until Serena felt the press of their presence. The temperature seemed to rise as their hostility radiated outward. Serena's muscles coiled, her mind raced through countermeasures. "You think you're tough?" Gavin taunted, jabbing a finger towards Serena's chest. "Let's see how tough you are when we're done with you." Serena remained still, but her eyes tracked every micro-movement: Gavin's finger twitch, Monty's shifting weight, Roland's clenched fists, Crusher's slow, deliberate breath. She recognized the signs of mounting aggression: the tightening of jaw muscles, the dilation of pupils, the rhythmic bouncing on the balls of their feet. A park ranger walked by on the path, oblivious to the brewing storm. Serena considered calling out for help, but she knew that once violence erupted, it would be over in seconds. Better to end it swiftly and cleanly. "I asked you to leave me alone," Serena said, voice calm but carrying an unmistakable edge. Crusher sneered. "Or what? You gonna do something about it?" Serena's lips twitched into a half-smile. "If I have to." Gavin scoffed. "Big words." He took another step forward, his foot scraping against the gravel. In that heartbeat, Serena decided, she would not be intimidated. Her training demanded she control the encounter, and control meant preemption. She placed her hands on the bench, ready to spring into action. The drifters tensed in response, uncertain if she would strike first. And in that charged moment, the standoff reached its peak, an unspoken challenge lingering in the air of Elmwood Park. Serena Vale's gaze remained unwavering as Crusher and his cronies exchanged glances, their bravado flickering beneath her calm exterior. The air between them pulsed with unspoken threats. Crusher cracked his knuckles with theatrical flair, his broad shoulders tensing as he leaned forward. "You heard her, boys," he sneered. Let's see what she'll do when we teach her a lesson. Gavin spat a string of vile insults, each word a deliberate attempt to provoke. He jabbed his finger at Serena's chest, eyes alight with malicious glee. Monty stepped in close, his bulk pressing Serena toward the edge of the bench, as Roland flanked her, fists clenched in silent anticipation. The circle tightened, the distance between predator and prey shrinking to mere feet. Serena's mind catalogued every detail. She noted the way Gavin's right shoulder tensed before a swing, how Monty shifted his weight onto his left foot to spring forward, the slight twitch in Roland's brow betraying his nerves. Despite the rising tension, her voice stayed low and steady. "You don't have to do this," she said, her tone even. "Walk away now, and no one gets hurt." Crusher barked out a harsh laugh. "Or what? You're gonna make us." He took a step closer, his boots scraping gravel. Without breaking eye contact, Serena shifted her hips imperceptibly, aligning her center of gravity for swift movement. She could feel the grain of the wooden bench beneath her fingertips, the rough bark of the oak behind her. Every sensory cue guided her preparation. Monty let out a growl and lunged forward, fist cocked. Serena's response was a breath, a pivot, a calculated shift of weight. She rolled her left shoulder back, letting Monty's momentum carry him past her. In one fluid motion, she slid off the bench and planted her feet. She intercepted Monty's arm, her hand sliding up his forearm to trap his wrist against his elbow. Gavin, enraged, swung a wild hook at Serena's head. She ducked under the blow, pivoting on her left foot to deliver a controlled palm strike to Gavin's ribs. The impact forced the wind from his lungs, and he staggered backward, clutching his side. Roland hesitated, caught between loyalty and fear. Serena's eyes flicked to him, her posture open, non-threatening. "Stay back," she warned. But Roland's fear made him fidget, and Gavin's pained shout pulled him back into the fray. Crusher roared and charged, attempting to overpower Serena with sheer force. Serena met him with precise technique. She sidestepped his rush, wrapping an arm around his torso and using his momentum to spin him off balance. Crusher crashed to the ground with a grunt, his bulk toppling onto the gravel path. By the time the dust settled, Serena stood at the center of a disarmed circle. Monty knelt, arm trapped, Gavin gasped on his feet, Crusher lay prone, Roland cowered at the back. Serena's breathing was steady, her heart rate calmly elevated. The violence had been swift, decisive, and necessary. She surveyed the fallen men, her eyes cool. "This ends now," she said, voice carrying. "Leave this park, leave these people alone, and never come near me again." For a moment, no one moved. Then, with a collective groan, the four drifters scrambled to their feet and fled, their bravado shattered. Serena watched them go, then exhaled slowly. She dusted gravel from her jeans and sat back on the bench, her composure restored. The oak's shade felt gentle once more, the distant laughter of children resumed its cheerful cadence, and the scent of azaleas drifted on the breeze. Serena Vale closed her eyes briefly, honoring the calm that followed the storm. Serena Vale allowed herself a moment's respite before rising from the bench. Her military training dictated a thorough assessment of the scene. She knelt beside Monty, who lay slumped against the low stone wall, arms still pinned. She checked his pulse, steady, though his breathing was shallow. Gavin leaned against the bench, clutching his side where her palm strike had landed. His breaths came in ragged gasps. "Need help?" Serena asked, her voice soft but authoritative. Monty's eyes flicked up at her. "Please," he rasped. "Call someone." Serena considered the request. Though she had incapacitated them, she refused to inflict permanent harm. She reached into her jacket pocket, pulled out her phone, and dialed 911. As she spoke calmly to the dispatcher, she surveyed the area for witnesses. A few parkgoers had gathered at a respectful distance, their faces a mix of awe and concern. No one approached too closely, the memory of the drifters' threats still hung in the air. When she hung up, Serena stood and faced the men. "I've called for medical assistance. When help arrives, you'll receive treatment for your injuries. But understand this, I will not hesitate next time." Crusher stirred, pushing himself to a kneeling position. His gaze, once full of hatred, now flickered with reluctant respect. "You're not like any woman I've met," he admitted, voice strained. Serena's expression softened slightly. "I'm just someone who refuses to be bullied." Roland, still trembling, looked at Serena with wide eyes. I'm sorry," he stammered. "I didn't know how far it would go." "Ignorance is not an excuse," Serena replied. "Learn from this." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder by the second. Serena retrieved a folded blanket from her backpack and draped it over Monty's shoulders. "Keep pressure on the wound," she instructed him. Then she turned her attention to Gavin, who was pale and sweating. She knelt beside him, pressed a clean handkerchief to his side. "Stay still. EMTs are coming." As the emergency vehicles arrived, Serena stepped back, her posture composed. Paramedics rushed to the injured men, working with efficient precision. Serena offered her statement to the responding officer, who listened attentively and took notes. When the paramedics loaded the drifters onto stretchers, Crusher's gaze met Serena's one last time. "Thank you," he whispered, voice hoarse. Serena nodded. "Use it as a lesson." The EMTs closed their doors, and the ambulance lights faded down the path. The park's tranquility began to return, though a ripple of whispered conversation followed Serena as she walked back to her bench. She sat down and exhaled, letting the adrenaline drain away. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small leather-bound journal. Flipping to a blank page, she wrote, "Confrontation at Elmwood Park. Outcome, incapacitated 4 aggressors, no fatalities. Personal note, remain vigilant but compassionate." After closing the journal, Serena leaned back against the oak tree, surveying the park. A jogger waved at her from a distance, a mother with a stroller smiled politely. Life, it seemed, continued unaffected by the violence that had erupted moments ago. Serena's thoughts turned to the bigger picture. These men were part of a broader problem, hate and intimidation lurking beneath the surface of everyday life. She closed her eyes, listening to the rustle of leaves and the distant hum of the city. Her resolve hardened, she would not simply walk away from this. With that, Serena Vale rose, adjusted her windbreaker, and headed toward her car. The sun was lowering in the sky, casting long shadows across the grass. She paused at the edge of the path, looking back once more at the bench where it had all begun. Then she turned and walked on, her purpose renewed. The following morning, Serena Vale arrived at her modest apartment before dawn. The city's skyline glowed faintly against the eastern horizon, and the air held the crisp promise of spring. She brewed a cup of black coffee, its aroma filling her small kitchen as she reviewed the previous day's events. Her journal lay open on the counter, notes meticulously organized. She sipped her coffee, eyes scanning headlines on her laptop. Stories of the Elmwood Park incident already circulating on social media. Serena knew that while she had acted within her rights, the public narrative could easily skew towards sensationalism. She drafted a concise statement for the press, a brief account of defending herself against a hate-driven attack, emphasizing her restraint and the necessity of her actions. Once satisfied, she forwarded it to a trusted contact at a local news outlet. Next, Serena turned to logistics. She contacted her attorney to prepare any necessary legal documentation, ensuring her rights and liabilities were fully addressed. She made notes on follow-up steps, obtaining surveillance footage from nearby businesses, gathering witness statements, and coordinating with law enforcement to track down the men's affiliations. By mid-morning, a light knock sounded at her door. Detective Caleb Reyes stood in the hallway, badge clipped to his belt. He was a tall man with a calm demeanor, his dark eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and respect. "Ms. Vale?" he asked, his voice measured. "Detective Reyes," Serena replied, stepping aside. "Please come in." Reyes entered, taking in the sparse decor, a framed photograph of Serena in uniform, her seal insignia visible, a shelf of military history books, her neatly organized journal. "Thank you for agreeing to speak with me again," Reyes said as he took a seat. Serena poured coffee into 2 mugs and handed one to the detective. "I want to make sure the record is clear," she said. "I have evidence to share, video, witness contact information, and my own statement." Reyes nodded, pulling out a small notebook. "Let's start with the men you identified. What do you know about their backgrounds?" Serena leaned forward, detailing everything she had learned. The matching leather jackets indicating a loose association, the derogatory language pointing to hate-based motives, their patterns of intimidation reported in community forums. She described each member, Crusher's real name, a local drifter with prior assault charges, Gavin's history of harassment, Monty's minor offenses, Roland's juvenile record. Reyes listened intently, jotting notes. "This aligns with several open investigations into hate groups in the area," he said. "Your involvement gives us a strong lead." Serena tapped her journal. "I've compiled timestamps, witness statements, and even sketches of their tattoos. I want to help you build a case." She opened her laptop and handed Reyes a USB drive containing the video footage from her phone. The detective's eyes narrowed as he examined the files. "This is excellent. With this evidence, we can corroborate eyewitness accounts and link these men to other incidents." Serena nodded. "I also want to understand the bigger picture. These men aren't acting in isolation." She paused. "I believe they're part of a network, something more organized." Reyes's expression turned serious. "I've suspected as much. There have been coded messages circulating online, recruiting members for coordinated acts of harassment." Serena's fingers drummed on the table. "Then let's connect those dots. I'll share everything I have." They spent the next hour cross-referencing data, mapping out connections between the drifters and known hate cells. Serena's detailed notes and Reyes's official channels formed a complementary partnership. By noon, they had drafted a plan: surveillance on suspected associates, interviews with additional witnesses, and a request for digital warrants. As Reyes packed up his notebook, he looked at Serena with genuine appreciation. "Ms. Vale, your actions yesterday were heroic. Your cooperation today is invaluable." Serena offered a small smile. "I'm not a hero, detective. Just someone who believes no one should be targeted for who they are." Reyes nodded, rising. "We'll keep in touch. If anything else comes up, I'll let you know." Serena escorted him to the door. As she closed it behind him, she felt a surge of determination. The confrontation at Elmwood Park was only the beginning. There was a larger battle ahead, a fight for justice and accountability. She returned to her desk and opened her journal. Under today's date, she wrote, "Coordinate with Detective Reyes. Initiate investigation into network. Maintain vigilance." And with that, Serena Vale prepared for the next phase of her mission. Over the next few days, Serena Vale and Detective Caleb Reyes maintained a steady flow of communication. Each morning, Serena would review updates from Reyes's unit, surveillance logs, online chatter, and new witness testimonies. In the evenings, she compiled her own observations, cross-referencing them against law enforcement data. One afternoon, Reyes invited Serena to the precinct's conference room. She arrived to find a large whiteboard covered in photographs, notes, and a web of red string connecting names and incidents. The centerpiece was a mugshot of Crusher, real name Douglas Crusher McAllister, circled in red. Reyes stood beside the board. "This is our current map of the network," he explained. "We've identified at least a dozen affiliated individuals across the county. They operate in small cells, targeting minorities and spreading fear." Serena studied the board. Photos of Gavin's previous victims, Monty's probation records, and snippets of encrypted messages lined the periphery. They recruit through private forums, she noted, pointing to a URL printed on a sticky note. They use code words and local meetups to evade detection. Reyes nodded. We've infiltrated a couple of these forums, but they're tight-knit. We need more inside information. Serena leaned back. I might know someone. A former SEAL teammate runs a cybersecurity consultancy. She's adept at penetration testing and could help crack their communications. Reyes's eyes lit up. If we can decrypt their messages, we could anticipate their next moves. Within hours, Serena's contact, Lieutenant Commander Ava Chen, was on a secure video call. Chen's calm presence and sharp intelligence quickly impressed Reyes. We'll set up a honeypot server, Chen explained, her fingers dancing across a keyboard. Once they think it's legitimate, we'll capture their metadata and possibly decode their protocols. As Chen worked, Serena and Reyes continued to gather physical evidence. They interviewed 2 more witnesses. An elderly couple who had been verbally attacked near the park, and a local shopkeeper who had found hate flyers plastered on his storefront. Each account added a new node to the network. Late one evening, Chen's voice crackled through Serena's laptop speakers. We've got them, she announced. The forum's administrators have fallen for the honeypot. I'm pulling message logs now. Reyes exhaled. This is the breakthrough we needed. Over the next 24 hours, Chen decoded enough to reveal plans for a coordinated demonstration of intimidation, planned for a community center next week. Serena's jaw clenched at the thought of more innocent people facing abuse. She turned to Reyes. We need to stop them before they strike. Reyes agreed. We'll obtain search warrants and preemptively arrest the cell leaders. Your testimony will be crucial. Serena spent the following days preparing. She reviewed her notes, rehearsed her statements, and ensured her journal was up to date. Each night, she visualized the courtroom and the questions she might face. On the morning of the operation, Serena arrived at the precinct at 6 a.m. Reyes greeted her with a determined nod. This is it. We move in tonight. Throughout the day, Serena remained on standby, ready to assist with identification and evidence presentation. In the evening, she watched as SWAT teams and uniformed officers converged on multiple locations. She monitored radio traffic from her car, heart pounding as each arrest was made. By midnight, the operation concluded successfully. 7 individuals were in custody, including the administrators of the hate forum. Evidence was seized: laptops, mobile devices, printed materials. The coordinated threat had been neutralized before it could materialize. Reyes called Serena to the precinct. He placed a file in front of her. Your affidavit, he said. Sign here. Your detailed account will help secure convictions. Serena took the pen and signed. As she did, she felt the weight of responsibility, and the power of action. Outside, the city's lights shimmered on wet pavement. Serena walked to her car, the chill night air biting at her cheeks. She looked back at the precinct, then up at the sky. The stars shone through gaps in the clouds, silent witnesses to the ongoing fight. She climbed into her car and started the engine. As the tires rolled forward, Serena Vale knew that while this victory was significant, the broader battle against hate would continue. But tonight, she allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. In the days following the coordinated arrests, Serena Vale and Detective Reyes shifted focus to consolidating the case. They pored over seized devices, analyzing messages, photographs, and transaction records. Each piece of data painted a clearer picture of the network structure and funding. Serena worked alongside forensic analysts, learning to trace cryptocurrency payments used to finance propaganda materials. She followed the digital trail from anonymous wallets to print shops where hate flyers had been produced. Her military-honed attention to detail proved invaluable in identifying discrepancies and hidden connections. Reyes secured interviews with the arrested members, leveraging the evidence to encourage cooperation. Some provided names of higher-ranking organizers, revealing plans for expanding their reach into neighboring counties. Serena meticulously updated the case file, annotating each new lead with timestamps and source credibility. Meanwhile, Ava Chen continued her cybersecurity work, fortifying the precinct's digital defenses. She also set up alerts for the group's keywords, ensuring that any attempt to re-establish online forums would be detected immediately. Serena attended community meetings at the Elmwood Neighborhood Center, where she and Reyes presented their findings to residents. They offered guidance on reporting hate incidents and encouraged vigilance. The turnout was strong. Families, seniors, and local business owners gathered, united by a desire to reclaim their public spaces from fear. At one such meeting, an elderly woman approached Serena with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "Because of you, we feel safe again." Serena placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We're all in this together. Stay vigilant, and don't hesitate to reach out." Her calm assurance resonated through the room. Back at home, Serena documented each step in her journal. She wrote, "Case progression, network dismantled, community engaged, preventive measures in place. Continue monitoring and support outreach programs." Her phone buzzed with a message from Reyes, "Preliminary charges filed. Case moving to prosecution." Serena smiled. The gears of justice were in motion. Yet she knew that vigilance would remain essential. Hate, once rooted, could sprout again if left unchecked. With renewed determination, Serena Vale prepared for the next phase, ensuring that the peace reclaimed in Elmwood Park and beyond would endure. The trial of Douglas "Crusher" McAllister and his associates began in the county courthouse on a crisp morning. Serena Vale arrived early, her attire professional, navy blazer, slacks, and a white blouse. She carried a leather folder containing her detailed notes and evidence exhibits. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Family members of victims filled the gallery, while reporters positioned themselves near the entrance. Serena took her seat at the witness stand when called. As she swore the oath, she felt a familiar calm settle over her. On direct examination, the prosecutor guided Serena through her account of the Elmwood Park incident. She described the drifter's approach, the verbal harassment, and the precise defensive actions she took. Each detail was corroborated by video footage, medical reports, and witness testimonies. The defense attorney attempted to paint Serena's actions as excessive force. He questioned the necessity of her response, suggesting she could have retreated. Serena remained composed, explaining that retreat was not feasible given the men's aggression and her duty to protect herself and others. "Did you believe your life was in danger?" the attorney asked. Serena met his gaze. "I believed the lives of innocent bystanders were at risk as well. My training compelled me to neutralize the threat quickly and efficiently." Her clear, confident testimony resonated with the jury. When cross-examined about her SEAL background, Serena spoke modestly, emphasizing her focus on responsibility rather than valor. After several days of witness testimonies and expert analyses, closing arguments commenced. The prosecution highlighted the hate-driven motives and the defendant's pattern of violence. The defense argued for leniency, citing the men's troubled backgrounds. As the jury deliberated, Serena sat quietly, reviewing her notes. When the foreperson returned, the tension in the room was palpable. The foreperson stood and read the verdict: "We, the jury, find the defendants guilty on all counts." A collective sigh of relief swept through the courtroom. Serena felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Justice had prevailed. After the verdict, Serena spoke to the press outside the courthouse steps. "This case demonstrates that hate and violence will not go unchallenged. I hope today's outcome sends a message that communities can stand together against intimidation and bigotry." Reporters pressed for comment, but Serena remained focused on the victims and the larger issue. She emphasized continued vigilance and the importance of reporting hate crimes. That evening, Serena returned home and updated her journal: verdict, guilty. Sentence pending. Community morale uplifted. Continue outreach and support services. Though the trial concluded, Serena knew the fight against hate would persist. Yet in that moment, she allowed herself to acknowledge a hard-won victory. In the weeks after the trial, Serena Vale resumed her routine, though her world felt subtly transformed. Elmwood Park, once a backdrop for violence, had become a symbol of resilience. Serena often visited the bench where it all began, leaving a small bouquet of wildflowers as a reminder of survival and hope. Local news outlets ran follow-up stories on community initiatives sparked by the case. Neighborhood watch groups formed, and an interfaith council organized monthly meetings to foster dialogue. Serena attended when she could, sharing insights on self-defense and conflict de-escalation. One morning, as Serena walked through the park, she encountered a group of seniors practicing Tai Chi beneath the oak. Their slow, deliberate movements mirrored her own emphasis on balance and control. She paused, watching the serene practice. A woman approached and introduced herself as Eleanor Jacobs, a retired schoolteacher. "Thank you for everything you've done," Eleanor said softly. "You've helped us reclaim our sense of safety." Serena smiled. "It's the community that makes it possible. I'm just one part of the effort." Later that day, Serena received a letter from the prosecutor's office. The sentencing date for Crusher and his associates had been set. She prepared her impact statement, detailing the emotional and physical toll of the attack. Writing it stirred memories of that tense afternoon, but also pride in how she had responded. On the day of sentencing, Serena stood beside the victims' families in the courtroom. The judge delivered the sentences, significant prison terms for each defendant. As the gavel fell, Serena felt a sense of closure, not just for herself, but for the broader community. Afterward, Serena returned to Elmwood Park. The bench was empty now, bathed in afternoon sunlight. She placed her impact statement in her journal and closed it gently. Standing, she took a deep breath, savoring the moment. The park's tranquility felt earned. Children's laughter echoed, squirrels darted among the trees, and the scent of azaleas lingered in the air. Serena began walking along the path, her posture relaxed but purposeful. Ahead, a young couple stopped to tie their daughter's shoelace. The little girl looked up at Serena and waved. Serena returned the gesture, her heart warming at the simple connection. As she continued, Serena reflected on the journey, from a solitary bench to a courtroom victory, from intimidation to empowerment. She knew that hatred could resurface, that new challenges would arise. But she also knew that she, and the community, were ready. Serena Vale paused at a clearing where sunlight streamed through the canopy. She raised her gaze to the sky and whispered, "This fight never ends. But neither does hope." With that, she resumed her walk, each step a testament to resilience, each breath a promise to stand against injustice, today and every day.